Hi, and welcome to the part of this unit where we start talking about the globalization of Africa in kind of specific areas, like in this case, music. What you see here is one of the kind of most famous modern African musicians from West Africa, Mali to be exact, Ali Farka Touré. Unfortunately, he died, but before then, he was very important in kind of connecting, especially with American blues players, and forming kind of I guess, a synthesis of West African music and American blues, which is something we'll be looking at in our upcoming video. So he was a griot, or pronounced griot, depending on if you're using French or English pronunciation, or a jali, which is the term for a West African musician and storyteller, and it's a really important role in a lot of West African societies. They're really important because traditionally they've been masters of history. The culture of in Mali, from which Touré springs, and from which the guy in front of you springs, Salif Keita, is an oral culture, meaning traditionally there wasn't much in the way of written records. So these griots or griots, they basically kept the history of their people kind of through song. And so they were great kind of storehouses of knowledge, and that gave them an important political role as well, because they were able to advise tribal leaders, settle historical issues and that kind of thing. So the guy in front of us, Salif Keita, is a very well-known griot from the Sahel region in Mali. If you remember, the Sahel is kind of a dryish ecosystem between the Sahara Desert and the jungles of more coastal West Africa. Keita he wasn't born a griot. He was born in a noble family, and they really looked down on griots. That is, it was not considered proper for someone in their family to become one. So Keita had a double problem. He was, as you can tell, or as you might have guessed, he had albinism. He's an albino. So he has his skin does not have much pigment in it. So being drawn to the role of griot and being an albino made things doubly tough. So as his music has kind of become a global phenomenon, he himself has also moved around the world a lot, and these days he spends most of his time in Paris rather than in Mali. One way that the globalized world has kind of shaped West African musical culture, and really even more so the culture of the southern United States especially, was through human trafficking. We talked about the good aspects, the bad aspect of globalization. Well, maybe the most monstrous aspect of earlier versions of globalization was the transatlantic slave trade, which moved many millions of people, taken from largely from West Africa, and taken over the Atlantic Ocean, and I guess that in many cases to Brazil, also to many of the Caribbean islands, and to the United States, of course. The areas where people were taken include Congo, Ghana, Nigeria, to some extent Mali, which is right about there, which is where both Touré and Keita are from. So this means that you have a lot of kind of spreading of ideas, of musical ideas, between these two areas. And this includes both physical objects, like the instruments themselves. It includes rhythms. It includes stories and subject matter, and all of the kind of key parts of being a griot were translatable across the ocean, and so a lot of West African musical culture came to influence early African American music, especially the music that eventually developed into the blues. And here's just an example of the physical crossover. You can see the kora, which is a traditional stringed instrument from Mali, and which we'll see people use in the video we're going to watch, is very, very similar to the guitar. So this has been a short, but I think it will be a useful video to get you prepped, or a lecture to get you prepped for what we're going to see when we get back to class. Adios.